say I didn't think I was on. For our invocation tonight, we're going to hear from the Wendell Council of Churches from St. Eugene's Catholic Church from Father Takei. Are you with us tonight, Father?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Okay. So let us put ourselves in the most holy presence of God. And as we prepare also ourselves to celebrate Thanksgiving this coming Thursday. Holy God, in this evening, we give you praise and we thank you for calling these members of the Board of Commissioners. It is their privilege and their responsibility to support, foster, and advance the mission and purpose of the Board. O divine gift giver, we stand beneath the endless waterfall of your abundant gifts to us. We thank you especially for the blessing of life, the most precious of all your gifts to each one of us. We thank you, ever generous one, for clothing to wear, for food and drink to nourish our bodies, for all the talents and skills that you have bestowed upon each one of us. Thank the many joys of our lives, for families and friends, for work that gives us a sense of purpose and invests our lives with meaning. We thank you as well for the sufferings and trials of our lives, which also are gifts, and which together with our mistakes are among our most important teachers in life. Lord, and as they continue this meeting, we call upon your Holy Spirit to bless and support your endeavors, especially endeavors in this town of Wendell. We ask for your protection and guidance, and also your accompaniment. All glory, honor, and praise are yours, Holy God, for all ages. Amen. The Father, the Son.
Thank you so much.
Amen. You're welcome.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Right, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Deloach. Commissioner Joyner?
Aye.
Commissioner Deloach?
Aye.
Commissioner Tarnaski?
Aye.
And Commissioner Boyette?
Aye.
All right, thank y'all. The public comment process has been provided in advance of the meeting tonight. The public had the opportunity to submit their written comments to the town clerk, or were able to submit a request to participate via calling in the conference by emailing their name, address, and phone number to the clerk by Friday, November 20th at 5 p.m. That was this past Friday. The clerk will unmute anyone who has requested to speak in the order the request is received, and you have 3 minutes to speak. We have no one signed up tonight, but I read it anyhow as a reminder to you, even though we're having virtual meetings right now, you still can speak and participate in our meetings as long as you email the clerk by the Friday at 5 before our next meeting, which will be the second Monday in December, so the Friday before that. All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Commissioner Joyner?
Aye.
Commissioner Deloach?
Aye.
Commissioner Tarnaski?
Aye.
And Commissioner Boyette?
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. Item number 4, recognitions, reports, and presentations. We're going to, item number 4A is facility and lands prioritization presentation, and we're going to hear from Town Manager Mark Collins. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight is a presentation just for public awareness of a kickoff of a strategic initiative of the Board of Commissioners, the Facility and Lands Prioritization. The strategic plan adopted in 2019 and Goal 3, Infrastructure, Transportation, Environment, identifies this responsibility of the town to provide for public utilities, land services, and open space design, maintain, and extended for necessary services that we provide as seen on the screen. not just for today, but for future needs as well. Staff is starting work in this initiative in a meaningful way at this time. What a meaningful way means is staff will be drafting a report that provides for the following: the purpose and needs for the report itself. It'll be an inventory of all of our existing properties, lands, facilities, how they're used, when they're built, the square footage, the conditioning, comparative analysis to other jurisdictions and like needs, and projection forward of those needs to determine how suitable they are for current and future needs of the town. It'll identify for those facilities options to extend the life of facilities, continue facilities as are if they're satisfactory, or the measured replacement or expansion of those facilities as needed. The fourth item is also to establish a plan for annexation of town-owned properties into the town. The town does own properties outside of the town limits that are within our ETJ, and being able to move that land into the town in an orderly manner. Finally, other jurisdictions have property and facility needs within the town of Windall that are in the interest of the board. An example might be Wake County Public Library. What's the future plans for that? Or the different schools within and around our jurisdiction, and what are the plans for those? So it'll give a snapshot at this current time of our partner jurisdictional facility and land considerations in the Wendell area moving forward. The schedule, the report would be presented to the board in January with anticipated board discussion at your budget retreat, and then inclusion of your goals from that budget retreat into the 5-year capital plan in the budget for adoption. So it's not an immediate thing, it's a significant amount of work, but I just wanted to kind of provide notice so that when this stuff starts being presented out, there's advance notice to the public that we are mindful and taking measured steps. That's all for tonight, unless y'all have any questions.
Any questions for the manager? All right. Let's move into our public hearings. Item number 5. For those tonight, the public comment process has been provided in advance of the meeting. The public had the opportunity to submit written comments to the town clerk, or were able to submit a request to participate by emailing their name, address, and phone number to the clerk by Friday, November 20th at 5 p.m. The clerk is going to unmute anyone who's requested to speak in the order their requests were received. You have 5 minutes to speak. You'll still be on the timer just like normal. Please note the board will take action on these public hearings at the December 14th, 2020 town board meeting according to statute. And you have up to 24 hours after today's meeting to submit written public comment to the town clerk, which will be given to the board. All right, item 5A is a public hearing for a non-contiguous annexation for 2 parcels totaling 50.98 acres, 34 of which is for PIN numbers 1794157657 and 16 for PIN number 1794256786, located at 0 Old Zebulon Road. We're going to hear from Assistant Plan Director Brian Coates.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for that introduction. The item 5A is to hold a public hearing for annexation. Item summary, the landowner, Mr. Sid Baines, has submitted an annexation request for 2 parcels totaling roughly close to 51 acres located along Old Zebulon Road. The 2 requested parcels are part of the Mackenzie Meadows development that was approved August 10th, 2020 by the board. The other 4 parcels of the project are already within our city limits, so this would just put all 6 parcels within our city limits, which is part of a requirement for water and sewer connections. Give me 1 second. As we said earlier, the parcels are located in our ETJ and are currently in the Residential 7 Conditional District, which was approved this past summer. Impacts to town services: the proposed annexation area would require services from their town's police, public works, parks and rec departments if annexed and developed. Secondary service impacts will be incurred by other town departments through the support of operational departments such as planning and finance. The property is already served by the local fire district. Water and sewer is available to the property and provided by the Wendell service area through the City of Raleigh utilities. Specific impacts are dependent on the use, density, and design of the development and subject to approvals for utility allocations and land use. Mackenzie Meadows is a residential subdivision with amenities and a mix of housing type. I can answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board? All right, we'll open the public hearing and hear from the applicant.
Spalding
Yes,
Group.
good evening. Go ahead, Brian, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I just want to make sure. You're fine.
Sure. My name is Brian Duncan. I'm from the Spalding Group. We are representing the landowners here in this development plan and annexation. And thank you for that summary, Brian. I really don't have anything to add. We're just essentially trying to get all of these parcels annexed into the town limits so we can proceed with development. Thank you.
Okay. We have no one else who has requested to speak. Are there any questions from the board? Make sure everybody has a chance to say what they want to or ask any questions that they have. Okay.
I have a question, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
The builder for this subdivision, are they gonna be building these houses on raised foundations, or are these gonna be slab-on-grade houses?
That's a great question. So these will be raised foundations in various forms, and each lot will be graded in such a way to convey stormwater as needed away from the foundation and the house and into the collection system of this development.
What, can you expand a little bit on raised in various forms?
I honestly don't know exactly what their plan is for every single lot. We're still going through construction drawings in terms of foundations, but they will be, the foundation will be elevated in such a manner to convey stormwater away from the structure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing, subject to the receipt of comments for 24 hours from the citizens, and we'll take a vote at the next meeting. Item 5B is a public hearing for a contiguous annexation of 4 parcels totaling 87.9 acres, 25.33 for PIN number 1793380878, 32.61 acres for PIN number 1793270810, 0.72 acres for PIN number 1793177440, and 29.21 acres for PIN number 1793294123, located at 745 Lions Club Road, 753 Lions Club Road, 929 JoJo Drive, and 0 Morphus Bridge Road. We're going to hear again from Planning Director Brian Coates.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. This public hearing for item 5B is for 4 parcels totaling approximately 88 acres. Thomas Spalding, on behalf of the property owners, submitted an annexation request for the 4 parcels. As the mayor mentioned, they're located at 929 JoJo Drive, 745 Lions Club, 753 Lions Club, and 0 Morphus Bridge. The parcels currently are in the town of Wendell's ETJ and are currently residential 4, residential 3 conditional, and then rural agricultural zoning, which is our traditional zoning in the ETJ. Here's a map showing the outline of those parcels. They have access to Morphus Bridge in a few places and plenty of access along Lions Club. kind of connects the two. The proposed annexation area would require services from the town's police, public works, parks and recs department if annexed and developed. The development plan is the next item for public hearing after this. It's a residential proposal. Secondary service impacts will be incurred by the town departments that support the operational departments. Water and sewer is available. The fire district is already serving this area. Utilities will be provided through the City of Raleigh with our agreements. And then there are specific impacts that are dependent on the proposed use, density, and design of the neighborhood. And I can field any questions on the annexation that you have. The development plan is the next public hearing item as well.
We'll open the public hearing. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Coates? All right, let's hear from the applicant if they wish.
Yes, real quickly, this is Tom Spalding with the Spalding Group, and we would just like to request to get annexed these parcels so that we could possibly move forward with our development plan, which is going to follow. And I can try and answer any questions if you have them.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? All right, any other comments from the board?
No.
Okay, and we'll close the public hearing, subject to the receipt of comment for the next 24 hours, and we'll vote at the next meeting. I believe that's December 14th. All right, and item 5C is a public hearing to consider a request by Brian Duncan of the Spalding Group to rezone approximately 88.15 acres of property between Morphus Bridge Road and Lions Club Road within the parcel identified as by pins 1793-27-0810, 1793-29-4123, 1793-17-7440, and 1793-38-0878 to an R7 conditional district for residential development. And hear again from Mr. Coates.
Good evening. Item 5C, the public hearing, as the mayor said, is the R7 conditional district for Harper's Glen subdivision located between Morphus Bridge Road and Lions Club Road. No decision is expected this evening. The decision will be considered on Monday, December 14th. The applicants requested to create an R7 conditional district for the approximately 88 acres currently located in the town's ETJ. The applicant's R7 conditional district, Harper's Glen, will feature 197 townhomes, 259 single-family homes, and a variety of lot sizes. The proposal also includes amenities such as a pool, cabana, volleyball court, tot lot, playground, and a dog park. And the applicant is providing roughly 10 acres of open space, more than required by our UDO. Some property information. Current zonings are in place. There's RA for one parcel, R4 for the two parcels owned by the White Brothers LLC, and R3 is for the property along JoJo Drive. The town is required to annex to receive utilities, and the applicant in this case is the Spalding Group on behalf of the property owners. The map showing the parcels, surrounding areas, their existing zoning, and then they're proposing R7, which does, the current zoning allows for different lot sizes based on each zoning from an acre down to 6,000 square feet. Site plan, there's 4 entrances, 2 off of Morphus Bridge, 2 off of Lions Club that are part of this proposal. So that the residents in this subdivision have various ways to get in and out. The townhomes are positioned that they're towards more of the Morphus Bridge side of the project. Lot sizes are 40 and 50-foot lots for the single-family homes. And we'll go over some of the other details of it. They are providing a 20-foot type B buffer along the exterior where it abuts neighboring properties. They're required a 10-foot buffer, so they're providing a 10-foot extra buffer. We'll go over TIA in a few moments of some road improvements, and then the amenities are focused in Phase 1A, which is where the pool, cabana, playground, volleyball court get constructed early on in Phase 1A. And then Phase 3, there's some additional amenities as another, like a tot lot and some other open space amenities come online as well. So the bulk of the amenity centers are in the first phase. Conditional district does give us some flexibility from our strict application of requirements from the town's general zoning districts while maintaining and protecting the public health, safety, and welfare. There's 5 conditions. First condition, in order to promote variation in home appearance, no home can be constructed with an exterior elevation, front facade, or color palette that is identical to the home on either side or directly across the street from it. To provide anti-monotony development, roof lines shall be broken up horizontally and vertically along front facades such that no roof line is in a single mass, and no 2 adjacent homes shall have the same roof line. Garage doors shall either contain windows or carriage-style adornments. The use of vinyl siding is prohibited except for the trim elements of the dwelling. The community will have an HOA. The HOA will be responsible for maintenance, pest control, and exterior maintenance of all townhome lots. And then the 5th condition, multifamily dwellings limited to 10 homes shall not exceed 44% of the total number of units. So the first 4 are kind of a give to us based on design. The last one is our code allows 30% in R7 to be townhomes. So they're asking for additional townhomes in exchange for those conditions related to design and materials. Public utilities, the development of the site will require connection to city water and sewer, which is available, and all parcels will need to be annexed. The streets, the applicant will be responsible for constructing half of a 3-lane undivided road improvements to Morphus Bridge and Lions Club, which also includes a 6-foot wide sidewalk, bike lanes, street trees, curb and gutter along the project frontage. The internal neighborhood streets will meet town standards and will contain 5-foot sidewalks and street trees as well. Landscaping plan, the applicant's providing a 20-foot type B buffer along the neighboring residential properties. They're also providing the landscape planting along abutting rear yards, which includes a tree and shrub every 15 feet. Phasing, the proposed Harper's Glen development will have 5 phases. Phases 1 through 3 do contain subphases, so that in each phase there's townhomes that will come online and single-family homes. So each phase will have a mix of units. Phase 1 does contain the amenity center, pool, cabana, playground, dog park, and volleyball court. Phase 3 contains a playground and open space amenities. Phases 4 and 5 are single-family homes only, and many of the amenities are constructed in that Phase 1. Traffic impact assessment was provided by VHB Engineering using traffic data collected from January and February, which is key. I just want to remind you of when, because it's pre-COVID. So that's when traffic counts were different than they are maybe now or were in earlier spring. So they're from January and February. They will need to construct 2 right turn lanes. One will be at North Selma and East 3rd Street. So when you approach, when you're on 3rd Street and you approach Selma, there'll be a right turn lane added. And then on Morphus Bridge, when you enter the development at Access Road number 1, there'll be a right turn lane there as well. So those came out of the TIA, which has been accepted by NCDOT. And before we get to the planning board recommendation, planning board did ask the traffic engineers to relook at Selma and Lions Club to see if there was, because current TIA says there's no turn lanes required. Planning board did ask the applicant to go back and look at that again. The applicant provided us another document, but it doesn't justify a turn lane at this time. But the applicant did go back and just relook at that intersection. Comprehensive plan defines this area as S4 controlled growth. This is for S4's areas are for the close to thoroughfares and at key crossroad locations. This sector is where we expect moderate intensity new development, where the majority of our new growth should occur. Typically envision community for S4 as traditional neighborhood development, which includes neighborhood serving commercial civic uses, and also a mix of housing types that decrease in density as they get further away from the commercial. Appropriate uses are traditional neighborhood centers, single-family, multifamily, and then neighborhood serving commercial, civic, and industrial. The proposed development on the site meets the uses within the comp plan. You can see that area. Planning board recommendation, at their September 21st meeting, the planning board voted 9-0 on an amendment to have traffic consultants reevaluate the intersection of South Selma and Lions Club. And then at that same meeting, they voted 8-1 in favor of the requested conditional district. The requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the uses outlined in the Wendell Comprehensive Plan in the S4 sector and is reasonable that it provides a range of housing opportunities. I can field any questions that you may have. TRC items were addressed about emergency vehicle turnarounds, stub streets, site triangles, lighting plan with a landscaping plan, and the applicant did provide phasing plan and building elevations for townhomes. Staff recommends approval. I can field any questions that you have. The applicant does have a short PowerPoint that they would like to give as well.
Are there any questions from the board?
I do have a
Okay.
question.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Deloach, you outlined 5 conditions. I'm assuming that 5th one was added, the 44%.
It was, yes.
When was that added?
They've added it after planning board and recently, so.
Okay. And what we've seen number-wise and drawings reflect the 44%?
Yes, they do.
And then the second question, planning board obviously asked about relooking at the TIA, and it was looked at again.
Mm-hmm.
Was it looked at with the same January and February data, or was it?
I can have VHB. Give me
Okay.
1 second. Nathan, are you on the line?
Okay,
You
hold
could
on a
answer.
minute. Before we get into that, let's open the public hearing before we
Okay.
hear from the applicant. So I'm
Hold
gonna
on
open
one
the
moment.
public hearing, and we'll hear from the applicant.
Okay.
Okay, you can go now.
Go ahead, Nathan.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
We
Yes.
can.
Okay, yes, the additional analysis that was submitted was using the original pre-COVID data.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any questions from the board for the applicant?
I've got one for Brian, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I have a quick one for the applicant, then we'll get to Brian in just a second. Is the applicant in agreement about the conditions, the proposed conditions? The 5 conditions?
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Commissioner Joyner.
Brian, I know you walked through the traffic piece. Can you talk to me about South Selma and 3rd Street, that turn lane? Just say
Yeah.
that part again
Mhm.
for me. if you don't mind.
Yeah, so as cars approach from 3rd Street to South Selma, there'll be a 100-foot right turn lane that will need to be installed as part of the project. So that will help people who will be going towards Lions Club or South Selma to make that right-hand turn at the 3rd Street and Selma intersection.
And then, so the second project that I've noticed is being highlighted in, but can you talk about the condition about roof lines and, I'm assuming it's purely aesthetic, but can you just talk about the merit of that?
Yeah, traditionally in a project, whether it's townhomes or single-family, monotony can be an impactful thing when you look down a street and see the same roof line or the same looking house or the same color. And so the condition that they added will actually break up that roof line, actually break up the color palette, so there'll be different variation in the homes. And the roof lines will have to be adjusted by each house, which at zoning check time, when they submit building permits, that's when we'll have to keep track of that condition to make sure it's enforced. I don't know if the applicant, do you want to add anything else about the roof line condition?
I think you have it. It's meant so that when you're driving down, like you said, the residential street, that there's lots of different ins and outs, and the townhomes don't all look the same, that they're different. They'll have different trim on them. They'll have different colors on them. The roof lines will be different. Sometimes this can be, just monotony can happen in a subdivision if you have the same house after house after house, and this condition is meant so it's all going to be mixed up.
Just one more question, and I guess, Brian, you may refer to the applicant on this, but how do we project, one, I'm, in looking at the drawings, appreciative that this track goes all the way through and touches Morphus Bridge and Lions Club. How do we project which way? I was thinking about it, and I think I started off thinking that people would use Lions Club, and then as I looked at where the townhomes are located, I can see where, since we measure everything on how you get back to Windell Falls Parkway, 3rd Street may become the spot. How do we, and this is pure curiosity of how the TIA works, but if you can just tell me how we...
Nathan, could you address the traffic expectations from the neighborhood?
Yeah, I'll try to summarize in a not too complicated fashion. So we assumed a distribution to multiple areas of Windell. So we assumed 40% of traffic would eventually end up on Windell Boulevard, going towards Windell Falls Parkway. We assumed 20% would go east on Windell Boulevard, and then another 20% west on East 3rd Street. So that's about 80% of the traffic from this subdivision we expect to head kind of to the north and to the west towards Raleigh. And then, 5 to 10% on a couple other area roads, 10% to the south on Selma Road. The percentages at the driveways, we projected roughly, let me try my math right, about 65% on the 2 driveways combined on Morphus Bridge Road, and then about 35% on the 2 driveways at Lions Club Road, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Does the applicant have a PowerPoint? Okay.
Can I ask one more question,
Sure.
please?
Yes.
Commissioner Deloach, and this goes back to the variance in the homes. If I'm reading this correctly, identical homes cannot be side by side, but they can alternate. And then across the street, you can't have a similar home, but theoretically, they could alternate. So just so I'm thinking properly here, you could theoretically have the exact same home, every other house on one side of the street. Additionally, on the other side of the street, every other home being the same. Is that, instead of it being every 3rd or every 4th home, you are allowed to have the exact same home every other house, correct? Not that people would choose that necessarily, but I know that there are, a dozen different elevations of the same home. I'm just wondering if it would make more sense to spread that out more.
Have we lost the applicant?
Yeah. Tom or Brian, could you address that question from Commissioner Deloach?
Yeah, that wasn't the intent of this. We tried to write it, I guess we didn't do as good a job as we should have to write it to kind of say that, blocks of townhomes, wouldn't be the same. The builders usually have quite a few different models and products, and so we tried to make it so it wouldn't have the same look down the street where you'd have a bunch of houses that were the same and have a lot of reveals, some in and out, some porches, some different garage types. That was the intent.
I understand, and I guess we have some time to maybe look into that a little further, but that would be something that I would consider addressing a little further, maybe.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to ask the applicant a similar question to the one I asked the last applicant. Can you speak towards raised foundations? And let me give you a little bit better definition for raised foundation. That would be a raised above grade level, finished grade level in landscaping at a minimum of 12 inches. Are the houses going to be on raised foundations that would meet that standard, or are they going to be lower than that?
All of the first floor elevations on these units will be 1 foot above. The way it's going to be graded is either the water is going to drain from back to front on a 2% slope on a swale on each side of the home, or it's gonna go from the midpoint and go half front and half back, the same being, the high point being 1 foot to the first floor elevation, and have the same 2% slope in a swale, or it will go from front to back in that 2% swale, with the highest point of the swale being 1 foot above the first floor elevation.
But I heard you correctly as saying that the finished grade at the foundation is gonna be a 12-inch difference between the first floor level and the ground. I'm not talking about the landscaping, or I'm not talking about the diverting water away from the foundation. I'm talking about how tall the foundation is above the ground that it abuts. And you said that's gonna be 12 inches?
Yeah, that'll be 12 inches, and then it'll be greater than 12 inches as the swale goes either front to back or midpoint to front to back, because it'll be at that 2% slope. So for instance, a 2% slope, and if it's a 100-foot deep lot, it'll add an extra 2 feet to that.
And is that written into these development plans, or is that just a matter of practice?
This is how we do all my grading plans in my engineering firm. This is how we design them, so that we don't have somebody coming back on us and looking for us to compensate them. We make sure that we do it right the first time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. We'll close the public hearing, subject to the receipt of comment for the next 24 hours from citizens, and vote at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Let's move into item 6, our administrative items. Item 6A is a fee in lieu request for 30 feet of roadway improvements on Compass Alley within Windell Falls Phase 9C. We're going to hear from Assistant Planning Director Brian Coates.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
The next item before you is a fee in lieu request for 30 feet of roadway improvements on Compass Alley within Windell Falls Phase 9C. The action requested is discuss and take action on a fee in lieu request related to roadway improvements to accommodate 30 feet of Compass Alley within the Windell Falls Phase 9C. The Town of Wendell Unified Development Ordinance under connectivity states that all new streets shall be extended to the boundary of the development for future connection. The property owner is requesting a fee in lieu for a 30-foot section of Compass Alley. Construction plans were approved for Windell Falls Phase 9C. An elevation change makes completing that last 30 feet, and then a very challenging, as there's a strip of land between phases 9B and 9C owned by another property owner. And so they that last 30 feet on Compass Alley in Phase 9C is real difficult to do, so they've requested a fee in lieu for those roadway improvements in the amount of roughly $9,000. Fee in lieu request and estimate have been received by the town engineer for accuracy and completeness. The estimate includes all improvements for a 30-foot roadway section, including pavement, curb and gutter, as well as sidewalks. Based on the limited length of improvement and the challenging elevation change and adjoining property owner owning the strip of land in between the phases, staff recommends approval of the fee in lieu. We could use these funds to fund other roadway improvement projects as needed.
Questions for Mr. Coates?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Mayor?
Can you not hear me?
Oh, there you are. You're
Okay.
back. Are there any pictures, diagrams, maps, drawings, or anything that we could see, so we could see what the difficulty is here?
Yeah, in your packet, there was a map of the Compass Alley, which shows an elevation change right as it meets that neighboring property owner, the strip in between phases 9B and C.
I got you. It's just difficult to pull that up and follow the meeting too, but I didn't know if you had it in your PowerPoint also, but that's okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? So, looking for a motion?
One question for Brian.
Sure.
Brian, this isn't a long-term loss to connectivity.
No, Phase 9B has many ways in and out, and even if this property in between were to be developed, the strip, we may not want a road, I mean, it may not develop as a road. There's plenty of other connections nearby.
Madam Mayor, make a motion that we accept the fee in lieu of request for the Compass Alleyway.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the fee in lieu request for the Compass Alley, I believe is the name of it. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor, Commissioner Joyner,
Aye.
Commissioner Deloach,
Aye.
Commissioner Tornaski,
Aye.
Commissioner Boyette.
Aye.
All right. Item 6B is a downtown facade grant application submission for 5 North Main, and we're going to hear from Planning Director Nikki Jones. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Hope you guys are doing well. This agenda item is going to look for you to consider facade improvement grant application at 5 North Main Street. If the board will remember, at the October 12th board meeting, the board directed staff to go ahead and accept grant applications and kind of process them, and then bring all viable applications to the board. So subsequently, November 2nd, we took the application to the Appearance Commission, and they recommended approval. A quick summary of the application. The applicant is Mr. Sigurd Westerland. Scope of work real quickly, they want to replace the front glass window with aluminum windows. They also want to replace the front door. The applicant noted that the windows were leaking and unstable, so this will help that situation. Additionally, wanted to improve energy efficiency in the building. There's a total estimated cost of $6,895, and the amount to be paid by the applicant would be half. This is a 50-50 match if approved, and their amount would be $3,447.50. It's important to note the fiscal impact here, that if approved, the funding for the grant would originate from the general fund reserve. Staff's recommendation is that, based on our current policy, and if funds are available, we would recommend approval.
Is there any questions for Mr. Jones? And this, just for my certainty, the letter that I read had a mention of signage as well, but this is just for the windows.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, the sign applications were recommended for denial at the Appearance Commission. However, we were still going to forward them to the board, but the applicant withdrew them.
Okay. I've got something else I want to say about that in a minute, but we'll deal with this first. Are there any questions from the board?
So to Commissioner Deloach, confirm the facade grant, the funds are not there. We would be pulling from the general fund.
Yes, sir.
And to confirm what Mayor said, this is not signage, simply what's here. Okay.
Yes, it's not signage, and yes, we would have to pull from the general fund reserve.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, for a comment.
Go ahead.
So, I remember the October meeting and asking for this to come before us because, for lack of better terms, I never want to put staff in a position of discouraging things like this. And I certainly think that in our budget retreat that's coming up, we need to look at the program and how we've succeeded in it. I had the same concern as you, Madam Mayor, as far as the sign piece. I also have a I won't say I have a concern that we're dipping into the general fund at this point, into our general reserves, which is not something that we anticipated doing. I will say that I appreciate the work that's been done on that corner. I think that, the business and the growth in that area is evident that, investing, works. I'd also say that, for this particular applicant, we've reached in our pockets, earlier this year, my thought in saying that in October, was simply this, that, I don't want anyone who's never participated in the program or development that hasn't seen it to never have a chance. I certainly also want to know how to plan for the future. I would lean towards saying in this particular case that there are other projects that we still need to complete in this area. This looks like a fine project to me. I think that the windows definitely fit as far as the facade grant approval. I don't know that that waiting, at least for the reimbursement on our end until July, is a bad idea. That said, I certainly defer to the will of the body. It seems like we've spent a lot of focus in this one particular area and on a small subset of buildings. Others may have a different opinion, but would really like to see projects completed before we get into the next project as we move forward with these things. And that's, all of those things are certainly just opinion, but that would be my comment, Madam Mayor.
Any other comments from the board? Commissioner Boyette?
Did I do something?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to check. Well, I'd like to talk about the facade grants as well, but I was gonna wait until y'all make a decision on this first. But I will say, kind of piggybacking on what Commissioner Joyner said, I do think it's a good thing to get one finished before you start, and it's the same building, you know, and I want a lot of folks downtown to have the opportunity to make some improvements, and, you know, maybe we need to do a better job getting this availability out for them, and I do have concerns about dipping into the fund balance as well.
Commissioner Deloach,
Yeah.
I'm gonna piggyback on that. I think that's my biggest concern. You know, we'll revisit it for sure when it's budget time. I think I said last time that, you know, confirmed it's a first come, first served. So there's a struggle with, you know, who or what is more deserving than something else. I don't necessarily like setting the precedent of digging into the fund, but I think for this particular one, I'm comfortable moving forward with it. But I think it's something that we need to discuss for budgeting going forward, for sure.
How do y'all want to proceed?
As I said, I'm not opposed to the project, and I defer to, if staff has insight on what is best for us to do at this point, but, I'm certainly fine with holding this until after we get to a budget retreat and have a clear expectation on what July's number will look like. I would just be apprehensive to dip into the general fund in this year to go after, as the mayor said, a similar project to the same building. You know, certainly happy to reconsider it in the future, but.
Is that a motion?
Well, I guess for conversation, is it appropriate to have an update of what's taken place previously?
You can get any kind of update that you'd like. You can ask for that. If you'd like, at that location? Is that what you're asking
If,
for?
if we've already approved a facade grant, and, you know, do we have an update as to whether that, and perhaps you know the answer to this, but where do we stand on that?
Certainly a good question. We will be meeting with the applicant on site probably next week. And I say we, that's planning staff, Wake County Building Inspections. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a building permit pulled at this point in time.
Okay, so.
And certainly no work has been
the work's
conducted.
been done, yeah.
I would make a motion to displace the application, until a future date and/or deny the application until a future time, whichever is easier on staff and
What's the best way to word that, Mr. Attorney?
I think it depends on whether you're asking for it to come back or not.
Or to deny it?
due to the length of time that I think this will take, I'll make a motion to deny the application, and encourage the applicant, clearly is in contact with planning staff, to continue working with us and bring us opportunities, but allow us to get through, this budget time before we come back.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny the application. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, Commissioner Joyner,
Aye.
Commissioner Deloach,
Aye.
Commissioner Tornaski,
Aye.
and Commissioner Boyette.
Aye.
Before we move on, this brought this up in my mind. I'd like to see us to have town staff evaluate our existing process and come up with a policy for the board to adopt regarding facade grants. Personally, I'd like to see that these facade grants not be used for signage, including awnings, if a business name is going to be on the awning. Also, maybe a limit on the number of times an individual property, not owner, but an address, can receive, can receive the grant, whether it's the front, back, the roof, an outdoor area, or whatever. There's rooftops out there, down there, and around. I just think that we need to, if we're going to focus in one area, or if we're going to spread it around, that needs to be a conscious decision that we've made. And I also think it's important to remember regarding the signage that this is taxpayer money, and if it's used for improvements in our downtown, though, I'd like those to be lasting and not something that would have to go away should a business fail. And sadly, businesses fail. And I'm not saying anyone who's ever received one of our facade grants is going to fail, but I think we have to be cognizant of that when we're using taxpayer money for things that they want to do. I'd like our investment to be pertinent to the next thing that may come in there and usable for the next thing, and signage may not. Honestly, we've had one business in our downtown move to another location, so if their sign had been on the awning, it would have not been, it would have been money that had been spent, and it would have been wasted. So, and I would like us to not wait until retreat time for that. I'm wondering if that's not something we can talk about in January. That's something, just come back with the policy and let's start talking about it.
Certainly will.
Well, I'd like January. I'd like to get going on it, because we'll be receiving other applications, and then we'll be in this same situation again. I think we need to have something written down better for you all, so that when people come in, you can assist them and they know what's expected of them.
Yes, ma'am. We'll take it to the Appearance Commission beginning of December, and then
All right.
we'll get it back to you in January.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you so much. Item 6C is a 3-year lease of a modular office and restroom building for the Public Works Yard between the town of Windall and Vanguard Modular Building Systems, and we're going to hear from Town Manager Mark Collins.
Thank you. I'm pinch hitting for the Public Works Director tonight, and he sent me his talking notes by text earlier today, so I had to bring those up. Thank you for your patience. Public Works is in need for some additional space for various reasons on their property. Not the least of which it is a very dated or early 80s facility and design that was designed for a completely different use than Public Works offices. It was designed as a water plant for the town that's been modified for an additional use. It was built at a time where ADA requirements, different genders weren't necessarily in that workforce. The number of staff working in the water plant weren't consistent with what's there now in a growing community. And this has put some strains as the department has grown over the last several years and has gladly diversified by gender and other ways in the past year. Their current space has the following concerns. Their locker room is in an old electrical generator room. It's where the electrical panels are. They do have wet equipment and need for cleaning in there, and water and electricity tends not to mix very well. It's not heated or cooled very well because it wasn't really intended for habitable space. They've made do with it, but as the employees increase, the encroachment on the utility function of that space becomes greater. Also during COVID, having people crowded into smaller spaces like that without adequate ventilation can become problems. They've identified additional space for a locker room within that facility that's currently being used for code enforcement office space. But if they reconfigure that office space into their new men's locker room, then they need office space for code enforcement. And that's one of the needs for this modular is to provide that office space. The building has 2 bathrooms, and Public Works is that they're either all out working or they're all in that space for lunch or a break. It's crew-oriented work. And so when the crew's in, everybody's trying to take care of their personal business. When there's an all-male staff and there's 2 bathrooms, that was efficient enough. Now one is designated for female restroom and 1 male, so we have 11 employees trying to fit into a small break time with that 1 restroom, which creates an issue for staff. We need to provide equitable space for a female locker room. The modular building provides for that. The modular building provides for 2 unisex restrooms for additional restroom capacity for the department, and also provides the office space for code enforcement. This is obviously not a long-term solution for Public Works. In a rapidly growing town like Windall, 2 departments that will experience the most growth pressure are likely police and Public Works. So those facilities tend to receive the greatest stress. The modular building provides a short-term, a 3-year solution. The company that leases the restroom and office buildings, originally we were just solving the restroom and building for a restroom facility, but the office ability to resolve gives us space to be able to replace a Public Works yard in the next 3 to 4 years, which is probably one of our more critical facility needs moving forward. The Public Works Director looked at comparative models and companies, identified Vanguard, negotiated a lease, negotiated down the price to the one that's in the presentation today. There's an upfront site prep cost and siting on the property. This is price and the process has been done in consultation with planning and Wake County building inspections and the fire marshal. The location on the property is also done in consultation with those jurisdictional partners that'll be responsible for permitting. The cost of the company to prepare all that, move the facility here and get it set up is $20,000. And then the monthly lease arrangement is $1,281 for the term of the lease. Brian saw this coming this summer, started working with the finance department to identify funds within existing lines to cover most of this cost. So barring anything happening to one of our facilities and becoming another large expense item for Public Works, between public building and grounds and a couple other lines, most of this cost is covered within our existing line budgets and won't require additional fund balance reserve to resolve. If approved, the lease is approved, then obviously any adjustments, one line item will be a lot higher, others will be lower, and that adjustment would be approved by the board as part of the end-of-year budget amendment. Management and the Public Works Department and Finance all support, recommend taking this action, and be happy to answer any questions the board may have at this time.
Are there any questions for the manager?
How long is that lease?
36 months.
36 months?
I believe there is an option for an extension written into the lease as well, but it's a 36-month term.
Where will it be out there exactly?
I anticipated that one and asked him, so Brian Bray responds, it will go between the aerial sewer pipeline and the old office building and maintenance shop. There is gravel about 50 feet wide between pipe and buildings, and that's where the inspector and fire marshal recommended.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Inside the gate?
Yeah, that's inside the gate.
Yes,
Yes.
I think that's the lower area.
Inside the old gate.
Yeah, the old office building is the lower one.
Growing pains are never fun, but they are productive. I look forward to not having to renew a 36-month lease because we've figured out other options, and I'll make a motion that we approve the lease.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the 3-year lease of the modular office and restroom building for the Public Works. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Can I suggest it be subject to legal review? There are a couple of points we'd like to...
Subject to legal review?
I always
Subject to
defer to
legal
you.
review. So we have a motion to approve it subject to the 3-year lease of the modular office and restroom building for Public Works, subject to legal review. Is there any discussion on the motion now? All right, Commissioner Joyner,
Aye.
Commissioner Deloach,
Aye.
Commissioner Tornaski.
Aye.
Commissioner Boyette.
Aye.
All right. All right, let's move to other business.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Update on board committees by town board members. The first one is Campo. I attended, virtually attended, haven't been to Campo in person in quite some time. Last week, we received an update on Campo projects and programs funding. The gist of it is that LAP funding is now going to be moving forward. Things have kind of come to a halt with the use of discretionary fund swaps that the Campo board had approved to keep things moving. We received an update on the Wake Transit Vision Plan, which is essentially the time has been extended from 2018 to 2027, which was originally, to 2018 to 2030. We also looked at and discussed funding sources through 2030 based on results from a public priority survey that was done. Regarding the Northeast Area Study, it's about to wrap up. Wendell is part of that. We should expect to hear from Campo at a town board meeting after the holidays. They said they would be contacting all the different staff that is impacted by that, so y'all can, town staff can expect to hear from them and get them on the agenda to fill us in on that. The last informational items that we heard from was budget update of operating budget and member shares, both for 2020. We also received our November project updates, public engagement updates, various staff reports, specifically from DOT. This is something I think people might find interesting. A lot of the reports, there was no report. But revenue has come in higher than expected or forecast, and expenses are down from what was believed to happen or a forecast. So we may start seeing some highway projects picking back up, particularly in spot program projects. As a note, we will not be meeting in December, so our next meeting will be in January, so you won't get to hear this great report from me at our next meeting, but you'll get one in January. All right. Next, we're going to hear from the Technical Review Committee, Mayor Pro Tem John Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. Technical Review Committee discussed the Watson Conditional District and the Hunters Glen project changes that were mentioned in an earlier agenda item, those changes.
All right, thank you. Let's move to our Commissioners' reports, and we'll start with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Want to hit a couple things. One, 'tis the season to be nice to your neighbor. So as we go through the holidays, be cognizant of that. Lake Mire Light starts Wednesday and runs through December 31st. This is a good opportunity for some socially distanced enjoyment of what is a very cool experience. Mr. Don does an amazing job. He's been out there like a little elf for the last several months, stringing lights together. I look forward to being able to pull up and tune in on my radio and listen to his entire performance. The second thing, I failed to mention this last time, but wanted to commend, because we are, I believe, one day past voting now. Joe DeLoach, nominated for the WREL Philanthropist of the Year award. He was nominated with a very cool list to see a good friend on, and if that was not enough, he will be 50 years old this weekend, and I want to wish him a happy birthday. Until we see you again, make sure you, as I say, wash your hands, wear your mask, and generally stay away from people. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner DeLoach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I do want to say that I want to thank, we've got quite a few citizen board members that are new. We've had some folks that have been sworn in recently, and I just want to tell them thank you. I say it time and time again, your time, your effort is valuable, and we appreciate it for sure. Thank you for your willingness, and we're excited to see some new folks doing that. Easy to say that our numbers are rising again. COVID still having an impact, obviously. Just encourage folks to be smart, be safe. We do want you to come to Windall to visit. We do want you to come see the lights. Public Works have done a great job driving in tonight. It was nice to see. So we do want to see you, but we do want you to mask up. So do that for us. And I do want to wish everyone a fantastic Thanksgiving. So it's exciting for me especially because, yes, Thanksgiving Day is my birthday this year. So good times. That's all, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Tornaski.
Good evening, Mayor. I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and just enjoy this time with family and friends. Thank you.
And Commissioner Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to take my time tonight to clarify some questions I had earlier in the meeting about foundations and whatnot in some new developments we have. When I first got on the board, a lot of people, a lot of citizens expressed that they wanted to see a change in the sort of housing stock that we got in the town of Wendell. They felt like the current new home offerings were stereotypically starter homes or smaller homes or just lower quality. I think that's changed a lot. I think we have been attracting a higher quality product. But as far as the spectrum of homes being built in our area goes, that's basically been because all of the housing stock that's being built around our area has improved in quality. No one's building 1,000 square foot starter homes anymore. And so, I don't want to say that we find ourselves getting anything lower quality these days, but I want to make sure that we continue that trend of building quality homes for our residents and quality neighborhoods. And in my mind, and when you build a house, if you build it and sit it directly on the ground, if you put the wood framing directly on the ground or 2, 3, 4, 5 inches above the finished grade, it's too close to dripping rainwater, it's too close to landscaping, it invites bug infestations, it invites rot, it invites house flooding, even in moderate rains. In my day-to-day job, I have the occasion to go into a number of citizens' houses in Windall when they call, either for fire or EMS or things like that. And I have noticed a number of houses that are slab on grade with visible water damage to the flooring on the first floor, either around doors or just in general. I personally don't think that this is a viable building method for our climate. We get way too much rain. This is not Phoenix, which is where slab on grade for single family residential started. You know, if you get 2 inches of rain a year, it's perfectly fine. If you get 60 inches of rain a year like we do, I don't think it's fine. You know, we had 2 rather nasty storm systems come through that provided a lot of flash flooding. And having a house that's 3 inches above the level of your grass, it can't provide people, but there's so much confidence in that their house and belongings will stay dry and last a long time. With that said, as a board, as a town board, we cannot set building standards that are higher than what the North Carolina State Building Code requires. The legislature has determined that we can't set higher building standards for single-family homes. We can't set appearance standards or have appearance requirements for single-family detached homes. We can't force builders to do this. And I wouldn't say that we want to force builders to do anything. I want builders to build what they think the market will bear and what makes them a profit. I mean, that's why they're in business. However, my responsibility is to the citizens of Wendell, whether they be here now or they're here in the future. And when we consider an annexation or rezoning request, I will be taking into account the quality of the buildings that are going to be built on that property to determine what is the best and greatest use for that property, for the citizens of Wendell, for the residents of Wendell, for the future residents, and for the people who are going to be buying those homes. And so I just want to say that I think that single-family homes should be built on raised foundations of a minimum of 12 inches. And I'm not going to prejudge any project. I'm not going to prejudge anything else. But as far as I'm concerned, moving forward, that's going to be one of my priorities, is to raise the quality of the housing that's being built in Wendell. We should always continue to strive to build higher quality housing for all residents, the ones that are here now and the ones that will be moving here. Moving on, the COVID numbers are continuing to get worse. They're getting a lot worse. It was hard discussion to cancel Thanksgiving with the vast majority of my family. I know a lot of other people are making the same sacrifices this year and not being able to meet and have that fellowship with the extended family they don't get to see very often. But I think if we really care about our family, and we really care about our neighbors and friends, that's a sacrifice that we're gonna have to be willing to make. I don't like seeing these clusters pop up, and I don't like seeing people go in the hospital barely being able to breathe. And so I would just ask everyone to use their best judgment. Everybody knows what this virus can do. Everybody knows how it spreads, and everybody knows the best ways to prevent it. Wear a mask, stay in your bubble, and socially distance. And so I would just ask all our citizens to be mindful of that, because all our actions affect all the rest of us. Thank you very much, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Since we last met, I was invited to speak at a key ceremony where the keys of a brand-new home were presented to a family, to the family of Army Sergeant First Class Ellis Burrito. Sergeant Burrito was killed in action in Afghanistan on September 5th, 2019, which is just a little bit over a year ago. He leaves behind a wife and small children who are all now residents of the town of Windall. The home they received, which is beautiful, was made possible by the generous donations of tons and tons of people, way too many to name, but I will say among them Wendell Falls that donated the land, Gorman Homes, the house, Raleigh-Wake County Home Builders Association, tradespeople, supplies, tons of stuff, more than I can mention here. Operation Coming Home, dozens of vendors and contractors, and of course the town of Windall. You may remember we waived the permitting fees for that. This Gold Star family chose Windall to be their home. They were asked, and they chose Windall to make their home here and hopefully grow some roots here. And they need a fresh start. This is still very new and raw for them, and they need all of our love and care. And I hope that if you see them out somewhere or you meet her, Legna, she's just lovely, and her children, that you will extend a hearty welcome to Windall to them, and because they're part of us now. So I want you to keep an eye out for information about the town of Windall holiday events and activities that are coming up. A lot of it's going to happen or start before we meet again, so I wanted to remind you to take a look at social media and the town website for those things. Basically, there's going to be a drive-in movie, vendor markets, a wide variety of things, decorating contests, Toys for Tots, which is one of my personal favorites. And there also will be various ways to participate digitally that will be fun. And then the Lake Myra Light Shows, Commissioner Joyner mentioned, will be open starting Wednesday, which is day after tomorrow. And I actually happened to pass by the other night on my way out, and they were doing a test run. So it was good to see, and it was up and running for that. Certainly everything's been modified this year to keep numbers appropriate and to allow for adequate social distancing. Please keep an eye on those things. There will likely be signage around to let you know how to proceed, how to go through things, and that kind of thing. And please pay attention to those signs. Remember to make good decisions. As it's been mentioned in here tonight, our coronavirus numbers are up and continue to rise. They've been rising slightly continually since the numbers were being recorded. So please wear your masks and keep space between you and others. Just, you know, I can't emphasize it enough. Commissioner Boyette is correct. We all know what to do. Just please do it. The last thing is that I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. This has been a hard year, and it continues to be. And it may be hard for some to think of what they have to be thankful for, but we all have many things to be thankful for, and I hope that you will take the time and reflect on those things and do the best that you can to have a positive feel about Thanksgiving this year. All right. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourned.